Welcome to Transpac Onboard, where we'll be chronicling the 2025 race from California's Point Fermin all the way to the finish line off of Oahu's world-famous Diamond Head. Throughout the course of the race, sailors will be contending with extreme conditions, impressive sea states, and the realities of what life is like while facing off against the Pacific. The starts for this race are going to be staggered throughout this week, but the first ones are tomorrow. So we're going to head down to the docks today to get a sense of how racers are feeling and what last-minute prep maybe still needs to be done. But first, a conversation with perhaps the most notable name in Transpac history, legendary navigator and 11-time race winner Stan Honey, where he'll give us a sense of what competitors can expect to face from a tactical standpoint over the next 2 weeks. Hi Stan, how are you?
I'm great. It's a delight to talk to you, Lydia.
Good to talk to you. Where are you calling us from?
I'm sitting on the stern of Lucky. We're at Cabrillo Marina in San Pedro, and it's a few days before the start of the Transpac. Our start's on the 5th. Lucky's owned by Brian Earhart, a terrific sailor who's had a long series of Lucky named boats and has done great things for the sport with his support. And the crew is delighted to be able to sail with a bunch of guys I've sailed with before on Rambler 88 and on other boats, but including guys like Brad Butterworth and Jerry Kirby, and so it'll be a great race with a bunch of old friends.
Awesome, real dream team. Can you tell me a little bit about the different strategic stages of the race and what sailors need to be thinking about as they're planning their routes?
It's an interesting question. The Transpac really does have different segments. The first way to lose the Transpac is to not get out into the synoptic breeze after the first day. And the synoptic breeze is defined as the breeze that blows 24 hours a day and is driven by the synoptic features that you see on a weather map, like highs and lows and fronts, etc. And then inshore in Southern California, at night it glasses off, meaning it gets absolutely calm. And so the critical thing for all boats is to get out to the synoptic breeze before the wind turns off the first evening, about the time it gets dark. Mm-hmm. And then some years, most years frankly, 2/3 of the years it's relatively easy. The westerly fills in and it's just a nice, beautiful sail out to Catalina and you're off. But about 1/3 of the years you get this feature in Southern California called the Catalina eddy, where it's windy offshore and the wind offshore spins this eddy inside Catalina, and the locals call it June gloom. It's overcast and you get this weird southeasterly, and it's a really hard job to sort of fight your way out through very, very light shifty weather in a very complicated structure where there can be up to 5 circulations inside San Nic. But you have to get all the way out, and you have to get to the northerlies that are out there. And if you do get to them, you're off. And if you don't get to them, you've lost the race right then, the first day. Then the major feature that defines a Transpac is the Pacific High. And the Pacific High, it drives the trade winds. If you get too close to us, it's too light. If you get too far away, well, then you've sailed unnecessary extra miles. And you have to get beyond it in order to get that right shift that you can jibe on to get onto port jibe to come down into the islands. And so the key for the Pacific High is you have to pick the right lane going under the high. If you pick a lane that's too far to the north, it's a little bit too light, and as it's light, you have to sail higher, and if you sail higher, it gets lighter still, and pretty soon you spin off into the high, and boats are still there from previous races. And if you sail too far north, it's a conservative track, and you have a beautiful race in terms of conditions, but you lose the race because you've sailed too many extra miles. So the trick for the navigator is picking that right lane. In navigators, we often call that middle leg of the Transpac slot cars, because once you pick the lane, you're sort of stuck in it for a couple of days. You can't jibe because the angle on port would be terrible. And if it's just right, you love it, and if you're too high, you spin out into the high. So then after you get out into the synoptic breeze that first day, the question is you have to pick your lane and you have to head for the entry point to that slot car lane. Then the final part of the race is basically calling the shift to the finish. If there's a tropical that's behind you, you often jibe to the south to get the left shift. If there's no tropical behind you, then you often, go to the right to get the veer that follows the Pacific High. And then the final approach is always fun. There's more breeze off of Molokai, so often you jibe into Kalaupapa Light and then take a long starboard across the channel in the accelerated breeze by Ilio. But those are the different sections to the Transpac, and each one of them offers an opportunity to lose the race.
Yeah, it seems like a lot to keep track of at once. I know it's early for weather forecasting for this year, but what do we know about how this 2025 race is shaping up so far?
So far, it looks good. We're starting relatively late on the calendar. So the starts are the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th, and that's always good because it gives the Pacific High more opportunity to get formed up. We've got a year where the ocean isn't particularly warm. We're sort of in a El Nino neutral situation, so that means that the trades, are likely to be reasonably filled in. And then the first 2 starts look like they'll have a pretty clean exit out of the start. The last start on the 5th, which is our start, looks complicated. It looks like we might well have a Catalina eddy and have a real fight to get out into the breeze. But if we do get out into the breeze, it looks like the big boats that start on the 5th will have a chance to get past a ridge that's forming, that may form behind us, and then we may get a nice right shift at the end to allow us to get onto port early to get into the islands. So it looks like it'll be a good race.
Interesting. Well, we're looking forward to seeing it. Thanks so much for your time, Stan. We'll be calling Lucky out on the race course in a future episode, so good luck to you guys, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you.